Good day, BMWMotorMec here. It's been a while since we did a video, but I want to do a little bit of work on the car today. So, when we got the MOT last, it passed, but it did have an advisory on the suspension drop links. In other words, the sway bar links, or stabilizer links, or whatever you want to call them. They said that there was some slight play on the passenger side. So I thought I'd address it anyway. I'm not feeling anything particular with the car, it all feels fine. But I thought, okay, let's get them sorted. So I've been out and I bought some Lemforder Droplinks. I've got a nice pair of them here. They don't have the hex in the middle of the bolt like proper BMW ones do, and so you need to tighten it down a different way, hold it down a different way with this, by holding onto this thing. And for that you need an open-ended spanner, but not just any open-ended spanner, because a standard spanner like those, or the ones in my toolkit, they won't fit. So I bought these on eBay, 10 pieces, and as you can see it ranges from 6mm. It misses a few sizes out, 23 and 25 and 26, but we're only interested today, I think, in the 18mm. I think it is 18 or 19, we'll find out later. And these are thin spanners, they're about 3mm wide, as you can see, and they will help get in here. There you go, 18, and they fit in there beautifully. Look, you can see that is super sweet, and I can tighten those up nicely. So for ease, guys, so it doesn't give you a headache, I would recommend a set of these. They weren't expensive, I can't remember, 20 something maybe for the whole set, you know. And it's definitely worth to have something like this in your garage. And you do get the two bolts, the two nuts on either side for each one. It's the same part number on the BMW E46 for both sides. It's not different for left and right. And so procedure then is I'm going to jack up the car, take the wheel off, because I want to have a look at the drop link. I'm going to refer to it as a drop link, okay, throughout the video. So I want to check out the drop link and see if it's got the hex hole in the middle of the bolt, or whether I have to do it the same way as these ones. I don't know if they've been replaced before. I am of the opinion that they were changed before I bought the car. So either they were replaced with crappy parts for them to have gone already, or what, I don't know. Maybe we'll see when we take them off, but I want to have a look and see how they are, make sure I can take them off with everything I've got here today, which I'm sure is not going to be a problem. Once I'm happy with it, we'll jack the car up a little bit more, and then, because the Clubsport's got a very low engine cover underneath, which I can't take off unless this is jacked up at one side, so I'll quickly get underneath, risking life and limb, and I'll unscrew the engine cover at the bottom, take that off. That's crucial for me. And then I'm going to put some wood under the wheel so we can drop the car down, because my car is lower than standard, and so I need to do this. So I need to put wood under the wheel, and then we'll lower the car down onto the wood. Then I'm going to jack up the other side and lower the car down on the wood. Once I've checked the drop link on this side, I'm going to put the wheel back on, obviously, and then I'm going to lower it down. Once the car is down, both sides on the wood, then the jack can go in the middle. It'll fit all the way underneath after that to the subframe. We'll jack it up on the subframe, get it up on the axle stands. This is important because even though you can see that my car is not level, if I hold the phone level, you'll see that the car is on a slant. It's going downhill, which is not ideal, but I don't want to put it this way because then the car's going to be that way, and it's going to put more pressure on the left side than the right side, and I don't want this. I want equal pressure on both sides on the anti-roll bar. So I'm going to put, even though the car it's in gear, it's got the handbrake on, it's holding itself there, I'm going to put a chock on the back wheel, just to make sure it doesn't go back any further. We're going to get the car up in the air, and then yeah, so you're just having a think there. We're going to get the car up in the air, put the axle stands on, and then when I do the other side, I'm going to make sure that this wheel is off as well. Make sure both wheels are off, and that way I get an equal weight balance left and right, so that if I keep this wheel on, I'm putting more pressure on the sway bar on this side. I want equal pressure. So I just going to make the job easy getting the drop links off, I think. I just want to make sure it's as easy as possible. Okay, so yeah, let's follow that procedure and see where we go. Okay, so the wheel is off, and it does have the hex in the middle. I don't know what size that is yet. I'm going to find out in a moment. And so it doesn't have that thing at the back where you can grab with the spanner, so it has to be taken off this way. So you can't use a ratchet, because then you'll cover this up. It has to be an open-ended spanner, and that's going to be tricky getting inside here with a spanner. I'm thinking about using my impact wrench to do the initial untightening. I'm going to clean this up first, it's a little bit rusty. And then down here, as you can see, I have the mechanism for the auto leveling lights. So that's a bolt under here, which I can take off to move this out the way, so that I can have more room to maneuver, more options. So I'm going to get the wheel back on and get the whole thing up and see what happens. Alright guys, so I'm really happy at the moment. I've just taken the under engine cover off, and since I did the oil filter housing gasket, it is dry. Not a drop, not a single drop inside. I could not be more pleased about that. So no matter what happens now, I'm going to be happy. No oil leak, no oil leak, nothing dripping on the floor. Perfect. Right, let's get the car jacked up. I've done my inspection. It is BMW Droplinks, because it has the hex. So I'm going to bring up the front, get it on the axle stands. Okay, so both sides off now. Let me just get positioned. So I'm going to keep this to clean up. I'm also going to clean the inside of the wheels while they're off, and I'll do the wheel arches and get the old Bilstein suspension B12s with the eye-back springs, get all that nice and tidy and clean. So I've had this car for a few years now. 131,000 it was when I got it. It's now 158,000, and that's pretty much the same amount of meat I had on the brakes when I bought it. These are Mintex pads. That's the reference number, I guess, M1230FE. And I tell you what, when are they ever going to wear down? They just last forever. The brake discs are going to wear down and shatter before they come off. And I don't like the look of that either. That doesn't look like it's gonna hold too well. So when I come to replace the new discs, after I get those off, if I can, I'm going to order some new screws for the I'm going to get 4 new ones all round. I don't know if that's going to hold really, but I've got some wire wool and a wire brush to keep this clean. So anyway, this is the one that the MOT said had slight play. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Regardless, I hope they're not making me replace them, and you know, putting all this work in for nothing. And the only thing is going to be should I use the impact to loosen this nut off? Will it work? I just want to get it unloosened initially, you know. And I don't have any penetrating fluid. When I went down to go and get some, they never had any in stock, so I've run out. I do have a can pretty much 3/4 full, but the squirter thing is not working anymore at the top, so yay. So getting a normal spanner in there is going to be a bugger. It's going to have to be a socket, but then how do you hold it with the hex bolt? And then down here we don't have the issue of the lighting, the headlight angle sensor. So I've got the car as level as I can. I've got equal weight on both sides as the wheels are off, so I'm hoping that that's put very little strain on the anti-roll bar itself, and I'm sure we can work it out. Right now I just need to work out how to get that off. Now getting on is no problem because it's a different method for me with the other Droplinks, but this one I'm thinking just to give it a quick burst with the impact wrench. I would not use an impact wrench to tighten, but to undo, just to get it loose, and then I can use I don't know I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't think a spanner is going to fit in there, if I'm honest, so I'll figure something out. Right, after a bit of friendly persuasion and some WD, we got this off. So this is off, and the bottom one we're now unloosening. It's coming off quite easily, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be an easy job. Time for a cup of tea. Okay, so just to let you know that what I did on this top one here was I did use a H5 hex 5, and I just popped that in there, and then I used a step up from the 1/4 inch to the 3/8, or 3/8 to the 1/4 inch, and then to the 1/2 inch, and I just used this big thing to prop it up on the brake disc so it couldn't move, and then inch by inch, or 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch, I just used the ring part of the spanner to just undo, literally just a bit at a time, and the thread was so hard the whole way, it took me a while. The bottom one was a lot easier, because I was able to easily just get this behind the 17mm thin spanner that I bought, got it in behind, and then because I had more room I could use my thicker ring spanner and just ratchet it off. It literally took me a minute, and yeah, I think the other side's going to be a lot easier. I won't use the hex method. I'll just get this. Does that come up already? No, I'll just get this in behind, and then I will get the spanner to untighten it, you know, just to get that initial tightness off, and then I'll just use this to just whiz it off. So it should come off in about just, I don't know, 10 seconds or so on the top one, and then on the bottom one I haven't got room to put this. I don't know what I'm going to do about the light alignment mechanism. I might just move it out the way, or I might be able to get round without having to bother it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is off, and the new one is here, Lem Forder. Oh, and I'll show you the old one in a minute, but the new one's ready to go on, so I'm going to be doing that now. Now on here, this is nice and stiff. I mean, this side is fine, right? This side, look how, I mean, I don't know. This one, you move, it stays, you know. you move, it stays, which I think is correct. This one, you move, it bounces back. You know, and if I do it fast, you can hear a clunk inside here. So that's not right. And if you look at the brand new ones, you move and it stays. So I don't know, something went wrong with this. It's, I don't know if you can hear that. I'll spring it and you see if you can hear. Right, I'm going to spring this. I'm going to put this to the microphone, see if you can hear it. I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, no, it's not correct. Okay, so I'm just going to do a reversal. Just going to put these on, just line them up, and then put a spanner in the back. Put a spanner in the back to hold this in place so it doesn't move, and then just put the nut on with the ring spanner, or maybe even this. I'm not going to tighten it with this at all, and then I'm going to use my torque wrench to tighten it up to 65 Newton meters. Okay, and I can't hold the camera at the same time, so I'll get that done and I'll be back. Okay, so it seems I've tried this nut on both ends, and I've tried this nut on both ends. I've tried it with and without silicone lubricant, but it seems that it is the way that, I don't know why, that the nut goes on nicely up until about there, and then it is a nightmare to turn. Even with the spanner in the back, it's super difficult to turn the nut, and I don't want to ruin the thread, but it just, that's it. That's as far as it goes. And yes, I'm not talking about just doing it with my fingers, obviously doing it with a spanner as well. Let me just get rid of the junk. I do keep spraying all the junk out. But this goes nicely in to there, where it's kind of flush, and then you can turn it with a spanner, of course, but it's so tight already, super tight. So I'm going to have to put both ends in with the nuts on and just try my best to tighten them in the limited space that I have on the suspension. So I don't know if it looks like I'm having to strain too much, you know, to the point where I'm afraid of damaging a thread, then I'm going to maybe just put the old one back on or something. I don't know, but I'll give it a go and we'll see where we are. I'll use a bit of silicone lubricant as well to try and help things along the way, but maybe is this how they're designed, to just be super tight? Because it was super tight taking the top one off all the way, but the bottom one not so much. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Okay, I will try and try and try. Okay then, that's on. Now it should be noted that the old ones, this back bit here, you can barely see that it's flat. The length orders are much more pronounced, but here it's a 17mm, just like the nut is. But on the length orders at the back, it's an 18mm. So you have to have your 18mm thin spanner. This little fella, 3mm, sits in the back, and then I was able to use a ratchet to ratchet that up. I left it a bit loose, you know, just before it got really tight. I just left it a bit loose. There was a little bit of rattle, a little bit of play, and then I tightened the bottom one just in case this one needed any movement in it. Did the bottom one, tightened it down to 65 torque with my torque wrench here, set to 63 plus 2. That's moved to a half now, but that's just probably my hand movement that moved it. But yeah, 65, and then I torqued up the top one as well, and now that is absolutely solid. So I'm not going to put the wheel on because I don't want to add extra weight. It's not going to be that much, but I still don't want to add any extra weight to the anti-roll bar. And now I'm going to do the other side. Alright, so we have the other one out. That was really easy. Again, I cannot impress or express how much I think you should get a set of thin spanners if you haven't already got them. You can get 1.5mm, but that's too thin. It's 3mm enough, and they just go nicely on there like that, just beautifully. 17s for these, and then they do get scratched easily though, look. But yeah, it doesn't matter. 17 for these, and then 18 are for the lem forders. And then it just stops this bolt turning as you're turning this nut. And I was able to just get a nice 17mm ring spanner on that one. I didn't use the ratchet. Used the ratchet on the top one, but I couldn't use it on the bottom one. I just used a ratchet ring spanner on this one, which and got it off. Didn't have to touch this. Now what I have done as well on both sides is got the wire brush and some wire wool as well, and I've just, you know, made that a bit smoother on both sides, just so the mating surface is nice. Why not? It takes a couple of seconds. Now, this one wasn't an advisory on the MOT, but if you look at this side and we move it, you'll see, bing, it's kind of returning to center, and it shouldn't do that. So that's bad. So both sides were bad. So I was always going to replace both sides anyway. You know, there's no point just doing the one side. So it's a good thing I did, because it shouldn't be springing back like that. What it should be doing is what it does on the other side, which is going where you tell it to go and staying there, and then staying there, and yeah, it basically just stays put. And this one doesn't. It's got a mind of its own. It says, no, I want to go back to the middle. The other one, yes, but the other one was worse. It was even more springy, like a gaming joystick. But this one was definitely on its way out anyway. So 100% it needed doing. Yeah, just time to get the new one on. I've got it already here. The nuts weren't that bad to go on, to be honest. At the beginning you can use a full thick spanner, a normal spanner for this. Same on the removal. Once you get the removal so far, you know, and you've got a bit of play at the back, then you can switch from the thin spanner to the normal spanner and just use the ratchet spanner, the ratchet ring spanner, or an actual ratchet, depending on your preference. Don't use a impact wrench, especially not to tighten them up. So yeah, so you will need a torque wrench unless you want to estimate it, but I like to get it right. So a torque wrench that will do 65, and of course the wheels, when you put those back on, the lug nuts are, or the wheel bolts are 120 Newton meters, and that I think is that. So if I get my 18 out, 18 thin, then when that goes in, I'm just going to put that in there, and then with the nut on here, I'm just going to get the 18mm ratchet, tighten up, and hold this spanner in place so that it can't move. It really is that easy. Yeah. But again, I'm going to tighten this up, but not. I'm going to tighten it up so it's still got play, still got a bit of rattle in it, and then I'm going to go and put the bottom one in and tighten that up to torque, and then I'll come back up here and tighten that one up to torque. And I think that's going to be it. I'll just take it out for a quick drive, make sure everything's right, nothing's clunking. So anyway, let's just get the other one in, and I'll plonk this one in the top, and then I'll put this one in the bottom, and I'll put the nut on just to keep it in place so it doesn't pop out again. And then we'll start tightening up both of them, and it couldn't be easier. I couldn't have done this without these though, seriously. I don't know what I paid for these. I'll put a link in the description. If Amazon still have them in stock, yeah, I'll put a link in the description. But basically, you're just looking for a set of thin spanners, and for this particular job, you're looking for a 17 and an 18mm. And this does miss some out, this set. So you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 is missing, and then 25, 26. So that's a very specific set of spanners. But look at this. But you know, for any jobs where you need to get into tight spaces, oh boy, I couldn't have done this job without these. So glad I had the foresight to buy them. Yeah. Okay, let's get on with it, and then I can go make a cup of tea and a lovely sandwich. Right, see you in a bit. Alright, she's done. 65 Newton meters up there and 65 down here. Now the way I did this was I disconnected the levers here for the light alignment thing. You can see this here. I hope that's in focus. Probably not. 13mm. There's a hole in the wishbone there. I just undid the nut on the other side, and I'll put that back in. That should be on the floor over there by the spanner. There she is, all blurred, but it's there. So I'm going to tighten that back up. Now that's in, and I was able to get the torque wrench in between this gap here. I just put it on here in between the anti-roll bar and the tie rod, and it was tight, but I managed to get one click up by holding on to the socket. I tightened it down, held onto the socket, one click up, and I did a click at a time until it finally torqued, and that was it. 65 Newton meters, and that is beautiful. So I'm just going to refasten up the headlight aligner, and then that's it. Yeah, so this is basically it's for the auto alignment of the headlights based on your suspension. Quite clever. If you have a big load in the back, 3 people and a load of suitcases, the back of the car is going to be dipped down. And so to avoid the headlights going upwards, it aligns it with that little mechanism. Isn't that amazing? Right, so both of the drop links are done, and I think I've got time to just put everything away now except for the lug nuts, the impact wrench and the torque wrench in order to get these torqued up to 120, and put everything else away, and then I'm going to wash the wheel arches. I could save it for another day, but it means getting everything out again, so I'll just pressure wash the inside here, get everything clean, all up in here while the wheel's off. Gives me a good chance to do it, and even though there's no oil on it I'll clean this as well. Why not? I can't believe there's not a drip there. That's just absolutely wonderful. So yeah, I have been messing today, all the tools out. Yeah, but she's on the axle stands and I've still got the jack underneath, so she's safe. And because the car is on a slant downwards, I do have the proper chock, BMW chock underneath there, which is ripping up my driveway, but it is there, and it won't allow the car to slip back. Right, once the car comes down, it's going to be able to, once the suspension moves and the anti-roll bar moves, the movement on the back of these is going to get settled and put in place. So yeah, once there's weight on the car and we steer it, it'll sort itself out, you know, the movement of where they want to be, and we should be good. I'll just take it for a quick spin around the block, make sure everything's going correctly. So I'm going to get all the tools that I don't need and put them away. Good day's work, I think, guys, and an easy job to do, really. Fiddly sometimes, but if you have the right tools, it's always the case that the second side you do is going to be a lot quicker than the first one, because there's some bits of learning process, you know, going on as always. But yeah, super nice and tight, beautiful. All right, see you in a bit. All right, I got my new lance on, got the orange one on for this one. I probably should cover my face, but anyway, I've got all the brake stuff on. You get the idea. I'll clean it and come back. Alright, well, the wheels are done and everything's been cleaned and dried under there. This wheel's particularly manky. Got a lot of corrosion here and here, but it's all above, you know, where this is the surface. It's all sitting above there. So I'm sure it can be sanded down and repainted. And this is just brake dust I couldn't remove at this stage. I'd have to get and do it as a separate job, you know, and I think I would do that at the same time as here, just sanding that down until it's all smooth again, and then repainting the barrels, at least repaint the barrels, put some primer on it, some anti-rust stuff. Is there an anti-rust primer? Yeah, well, something like that, and then put the paint on top. Because when I painted these the first time, I didn't do that. It was just painted straight on bare metal, bare aluminium, or bare alloy. As for the cover, giving that a bit of a clean. This is obviously overspray from when the car was painted. So I'm going to get some satin black paint, sand this down a little bit, make it a bit smoother. I'm going to get some satin black paint and I'm going to repaint this cover. But I've cleaned it both outside and inside. But I am happy to say that there was no oil spillages, not even a drop. That made my day on its own. So the only other thing I'm going to check before the wheels go back on is to make sure that on the top and on the bottom that none of these Droplinks are sitting at any weird angles. And this one it was kind of kinked over to that way, so I've straightened it up, and that's straight on that one. So as I'm going to check the other side and just make sure we have the same scenario, and that feels straight on the back there, and there's a bit of a bend there, but it's not a lot, it's just a tiny bit, and that will settle once the car comes down. You see, if this is straight, let's say 0 degrees for example, and the bottom one is 20 degrees, then I'll move them both so they're 10 each. But yeah, so what I need to do now to get the cover on is jack the car up, put the wheels on, bring the car down, and then, because obviously the jack is where the cover needs to be, I can't pull the jack out and put the cover on, because how do I bring the car down? So what I have to do is jack it up, jam the wheels on, tighten them up properly, bring the car all the way down off the axle stands, and then jack up this side fairly high so I can get underneath. I have to jack this side because the chock is on that side, and then I jack this up high so I can get underneath and screw that in, which is an easy job. And then I'll bring the car down on some wood which is here. Onto here, one on each wheel, so that when the car is lowered to its fullest, I can still pull the jack out without any part of the jack touching the bumper on the way out. I can do it without the wood, it's just a little bit tighter, but it can be done. But yeah, and that's it, done. Right, so I'll get all the wheels on, get the car down, and then I'll report in for a final debrief. Yeah, she's looking good. Alright, see you in a second. Sacrifices. When you have a subwoofer in your boot, it's difficult to lift the boot liner up, and I needed to put the chock back, and the floor of the boot was just ripping me, you know, the carpeted floor. So yeah, nearly died. Okay, everything's done, just need to put the jack away, covers on underneath, it's all clean. I've gunked a bit of the underneath, just a couple of small areas, just to clean that up, keep it dry. So that's it, test drive now, and we're good. Solid day. Right, that's it. She's been out on a run, everything is fine, everything feels good. Yeah, happy with that, and that's it. Now we're going to close the garage and say goodnight. See you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.